Good morning, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you a special update and coverage on Hurricane Melissa, which is just now beginning to emerge off of the northeastern coast of Cuba here and into the southwestern Atlantic on approach to some of the Bahamian islands here. With this most recent advisory at the 8 a.m., we can finally say that the government of Jamaica has discontinued the tropical storm warning for the island of Jamaica. So there is no more warnings for those folks there on that island. So that, even before I get into the particulars as far as location, wind speed, pressure, all that other stuff, I felt that this was very, very important to get that out there, that Jamaica has finally been freed and cleared of any type of tropical warning watch. Now they're free and clear to begin the recovery and the long process of the rebuild, especially there onto the southwestern portions of the island. The damage I've seen in many locations has been complete. My heart goes out to those people. And now that we are starting to get daylight to emerge over there, we're really going to start to see some horrific pictures today, folks. So please, take care of yourselves mentally when it comes to viewing some of that stuff, because there could be some very heartbreaking pictures. So just kind of disclaimer and warning that we're going to see things today that we haven't seen yet come out of this storm. So as of the 8 a.m. intermediate advisory, Melissa is located at 20.6 north, 75.7 west, about 45 miles northwest of Guantanamo, Cuba, and about 205 miles south of the central Bahamas. Maximum sustained winds were estimated at 105 miles an hour, and it is now moving north-northeast at 14 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure has come up to 968 millibars. We still have a hurricane warning in effect for eastern Cuba, all of eastern Cuba, and the southeastern and central Bahamas. We still have a hurricane watch in effect for Bermuda and a tropical storm warning in effect for all of Haiti, all of the Turks and Caicos, and the Cuban province of that place right there. I do not know how to pronounce it. I'm not even going to try. Our hazards affecting land. Again, I've said this for numerous lives, many, many days now in a row. This is the most important part of a National Hurricane Center. Any of the information that they give out, the hazards affecting land within the public advisory, that incorporates all threats. If you go back and you just look at this column here, all it has is location, the wind speed, the pressure, and how fast it's moving. We're not talking about any of the wind, or that's all we're talking about is the wind. We're not talking about the rain. We're not talking about the surge. That's it, is just the wind. So by scrolling down to the hazards affecting land, you get all of the particulars. So for our hazards affecting land with the wind, hurricane conditions are occurring within the warning area in Cuba. Tropical storm conditions are expected in Haiti today. Hurricane conditions are expected in the southeastern and central Bahamas today. Tropical storm conditions are expected in the Turks and Caicos Island today. And then hurricane conditions are possible on Bermuda late Thursday and Thursday night. For our rainfall, Melissa is expected to bring an additional 3 to 6 inches across Jamaica, where storm total amounts will be between 12 to 24 inches. Isolated areas near 30 inches will be possible over mountainous terrain. Ongoing catastrophic flash flooding and numerous landslides will continue today into tonight. Now, they're not going to see 30 inches of rain. That is over the course of the storm. So, an additional 3 to 6 inches are possible today and through, kind of the near future. But the overall was 12 to 24 with isolated amounts of near 30 inches. For eastern Cuba, storm total rainfall of 10 to 20 inches are expected through today, with local amounts to 25 inches expected over mountainous terrain. This will cause life-threatening and potentially catastrophic flash flooding with numerous landslides. Over the southeastern Bahamas, storm total rainfall of 5 to 10 inches are expected today, which will result in areas of flash flooding. For the Turks and Caicos, rainfall totals of 1 to 3 inches are expected. Heavy rain may begin to affect Bermuda on Thursday or Thursday night. Over southern Hispaniola, additional rainfall of 2 to 6 inches are expected today, with storm total local maxima of 40 inches possible. That's over the course of the entire storm, with that potential 40-inch rainfall reading. And our storm surge. Storm surge of 5 to 8 feet above normally dry ground is possible in the southeastern Bahamas today, and minor coastal flooding is possible in the Turks and Caicos Island today. Minor coastal flooding is possible in bays and inlets along the north coast and east of eastern Cuba, and minor coastal flooding is expected along the coast of Haiti. And for our surf, stay out of the water, folks, please. We've had enough damage. We've had enough potential impact to life. We do not need more. Now, we have the forecasters discussion. Now, the forecasters discussion, we have to note that this was released with the most recent primary advisory, which was 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So this is a little on the outdated side compared to what we get with some of the information coming from the intermediate advisory. This is 3 hours older than the intermediate advisory information. So we are going to go through this, though, because it will kind of set things in motion for the next primary advisory, which comes out at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and we will be back to cover that here this afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So, our radar data and satellite image indicate that Melissa made landfall in the province of Santiago de Cuba to the east of that place. I'm not even going to try. Around 7:10 UTC this morning. The estimated landfall intensity of 105 knots was based on a blend of the earlier Air Force reconnaissance, hunter, wind, and pressure data with the available satellite intensity estimates. The hurricane is now centered inland over eastern Cuba, where damaging winds and heavy rainfall continue across the region. Outer bands are also noted across Haiti and portions of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Land interaction with the rugged terrain of eastern Cuba has likely caused some weakening over the past couple of hours, so the initial intensity is lowered to 100 knots. At that point, it was still a Category 3 hurricane with 115-mile-an-hour winds. And then if we look at the 8 a.m. advisory, it has dropped down to a Category 2 of 105. So at the 5 a.m., it was 115. At the 8 a.m., it has now reduced more and further down to 105. The hurricane is moving to the northeast at 10 knots within the flow between an upper trough over the southeastern U.S. and a subtropical ridge over the central Atlantic. After crossing eastern Cuba this morning, Melissa is expected to continue accelerating northeastward during the next several days. This motion will bring the core of the hurricane over portions of the southeastern and central Bahamas later today. Then, the track models are tightly clustered on the center of Melissa, passing to the west of Bermuda Bermuda late Thursday and Thursday night, with good overall model agreement. No notable changes were made to this portion of the NHC track forecast. There was a leftward shift in much of the guidance at the 96 to 120 hour, and the official track forecast was adjusted to reflect these trends. Additional weakening is expected while the hurricane moves across eastern Cuba this morning. Melissa is expected to remain a strong hurricane while it crosses portions of the Bahamas later today. Over the next few days, increasing vertical wind shear, cooler waters, and a drier surrounding mid-level environment will likely induce further weakening. However, Melissa is forecast to still be a hurricane when it makes its closest approach to Bermuda later this week. Then, the global model fields and model simulated satellite imagery show Melissa quickly losing tropical characteristics and becoming an extratropical cyclone by Friday night or early Saturday. No major changes were made to the updated NHC intensity prediction, which remains near the middle of the intensity guidance envelope. And as we could see here with the forecasters' discussion this morning, we have it steadily but slowly continuing to weaken. And if we see here 115 at the 5, and they were calling for it to be 110 in 12 hours, well, we know 3 hours later it was 105, which as of this morning was the forecast intensity at the 24-hour mark. So it does lead to maybe a little bit of optimism that these values are a little higher than what reality is going to end up being. We will know once the Hurricane Hunter actually is able to reach the core of the system. The core is just now starting to move off land, and Hurricane Hunters will not investigate tropical cyclones while over land. It's just too dangerous. The forecast track. Now, this forecast track it's the 8 a.m. intermediate advisory, but the track does not change with intermediate advisories. The track is only updated at the primary advisory. So what we have here would be where Melissa was located at the 5 a.m. advisory. As you can see now with the most current satellite loops, we have this beginning to emerge off of the coast here of Cuba. I would say that it is pretty well, I'd say the core is over the open waters now for the majority of it. And we have this very, very well-defined dry slot beginning to try to get involved here on the northern side, and then also a little bit of optimism here. Let me get some bright red here. We're also noticing this dry air that is trying to infiltrate here has really compressed this back left side of the storm. You don't see that circle symmetry. You don't see the same amount of clouds coming out on the eastern side that you do the western side. The western side has been pushed, and there is a reason for that. That is the increase of the southwesterly shear. We will jump over here to Earth Null to show everybody we're at the 500 millibar level, and it should be kind of easy to see what track Melissa is going to take. As you could see, there is that weakness, and if we come up to approximately 6 miles above the ocean surface, you can see this wind associated with that frontal boundary and the westerlies beginning to really, really impinge the southwestern side of Melissa here on Earth Null. Now, Earth Null can only be used as reference only, not necessarily for forecasting abilities, but it does have the abilities to highlight in real time what we may be looking at as far as conditions are concerned. And this is definitely a southwesterly shear on that, and then it is also confirmed by satellite to where the southwestern quadrant has been severely compressed. And we do not have a lot of rainfall, a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity here, as the dry air, I don't even know why I'm saying that. It's not like I can't show people this. Our mid-level dry air, as you can see, with a lot of these oranges and yellows, is really starting to get very close to the system. It is starting to press in even further. This is the mid-level water vapor. If I come down to the lower level water vapor, you can really see a lot of that dry air beginning to influence and get awfully close to Melissa. So, hey, we're all for it. We'll take anything that would allow this storm to disappear off into the history books, because it already has many, many records that it has acquired, and now would be a great time for this to stop messing with people and just go away. But unfortunately, we do have a little bit further to go. The forecast track, as you can see here with the 6Z guidance, very tightly clustered. Lost a little bit of that along track spread in the overnight models. As you can see, the 48-hour timeline is very clustered compared to what we had yesterday, and that is kind of the close proximity here for Bermuda, is in and around that 48-hour mark. So, and that's from the 60s, so that would have been from 2 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we're looking at that 48-hour mark of being somewhere in the vicinity, and then becoming post-tropical afterwards. But if we look up here for folks here in Atlantic Canada, on the very, very southeastern parts of Newfoundland, you may have to watch, keep an eye on this, as it is transitioning to a post-tropical cyclone, but still could bring some very inclement weather conditions and potentially some storm conditions the closer you get to the southeastern part of Newfoundland. Now, let me see here. This is the 6Z Google DeepMind. Please disregard all the pressures here on the right-hand side. That's not what I pulled this up for. The reason that I've pulled this up is to show the tight clustering of the guidance from the Google DeepMind, since it has performed phenomenally well this year. And the one thing that I really want to highlight here is Bermuda sits right there. So as we can see, the guidance is to the left or the west of Bermuda, and that should hopefully at least mitigate some of those core wind opportunities there for Bermuda. If we look at our wind speed probabilities, this is another product that is offered by the National Hurricane Center. And if we check in on Bermuda, we have an 86% chance of tropical storm force winds, a 39% chance of seeing our 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds, and an 11% chance of seeing our hurricane force winds. For San Salvador, we are looking at a 95% chance of tropical storm force winds, a 51% chance of seeing our 50 knot winds, and a 22% chance of seeing our hurricane force winds. Mayaguana, you are at a 94% chance of seeing those tropical storm force winds, but only a 9% chance of seeing those damaging 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds. Guantanamo Bay, your tropical storm force winds are in the yes category at 99%. Great Eczema, here you are at a 43% chance of tropical storm force winds and a low 3% chance of those 50 knot winds. Now, if you remember me saying something about Newfoundland, we have Cape Race, Newfoundland, right now with a 37% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds a 10% chance of those 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds, and a 2% chance of seeing those hurricane force winds. And this oil field somewhere out there could see tropical storm conditions as well, with a 55% chance of seeing those tropical storm conditions. Our forecast advisory. Now, this is kind of critical, and I do want to go over a couple things so people may be able to read this on their own. So, as we could see with the 5 a.m. advisory, we had the minimum central pressure of 960 with 100 knot winds, gusts up to 120 knots. Well, if we look at our hurricane force winds and our hurricane wind field as of the 5 a.m. advisory, it only stretched out 25 miles there on the northern side of the circulation and 20 miles out from the core on the southern side of the circulation. So it is the area of the tightest winds are going to be located very, very close to the core itself. Now, as we go through the day to day, in the next 12 hours, we can see that that overall wind field for hurricane force winds may expand just a little bit on that northeastern side. It is now 30 miles instead of 25. The southeastern side is now 25 miles instead of 20. The southwestern and northwestern side of the circulation remain the same at 20 and 25 miles respectively. But as we continue to go along with the forecast, our hurricane force winds continue to slightly expand, with now in 24 hours, with the hurricane force winds on the northeastern quadrant expanding another 5 miles to 35 miles, the southeastern quadrant again expanding to 30 miles, and the southwestern and northwestern quadrants also beginning expansion of that hurricane force winds, being 25 and 30 miles respectively. So everything is going up, about expanding about 5 miles. Now, when we get into the 36-hour forecast period, we are still seeing some expansion of that hurricane force wind field. So on the eastern side, they would be the north and the southeastern side, 40 miles extending from the center of circulation. And on the western side, we would go out 30 miles. Now, after that point, we start to see some influence from that trough really starting to take hold. And if we look at the 48-hour mark, the northeast quadrant remains the same at 40. The southeastern quadrant expands just a little bit out to 45. The southwestern quadrant remains the same at 30, but the northwestern quadrant starts to reduce down from 30 to 25. Well, if we go one more, that's a terrible line. If we go one more, you will see a significant change at that point. At this point, we are looking at the northeastern quadrant being 20 miles, the southeastern quadrant, where we keep most of the energy, at 45 miles, the southwestern quadrant being at 30 miles, but the northwestern quadrant, 0. And then, after that, the maximum wind is, again, terrible box. The maximum wind then falls below hurricane status, down to 60 knots. So you can't have 64 knot sustained winds if the maximum sustained winds of the storm is only 60 knots. And then it begins to fall apart quite quickly. But the tropical storm force wind field, as it turns into its post-tropical transition and starting to get kind of close up there in and around the Newfoundland area, that tropical storm force wind field could expand. Though the storm will be passing to your south, so you're going to be on that northwestern side, and it only extends out 120 miles. So, again, keep an eye on it up there in Newfoundland, if you would, please. As far as our rainfall forecast, this was just updated. We will get a new updated graphic at the 5 p.m. advisory this afternoon from the National Hurricane Center. Still a great amount of rain here into parts of Cuba, and we are looking at a widespread 8 to 12 inches, well, really 6 to 12 inches. Here, let me get a different color. This is not working very well. We go back down to our black, and we will go like this again. Our 6 to 12 inches of rain, or 150 to 300 millimeters, with locally potentially higher amounts than that, above 12 inches. Now, I was expecting our friends here in the Bahamas to at least get a little bit more of a confident forecast, but unfortunately, it is still some of the lower confidence forecasts. So the amount of rain that is forecast to fall there into the Bahamas today is still a little variable. And so please monitor your official sources, check in with the Bahamian Meteorological Service, and get the official forecast from them for your local area. As far as our key messages are concerned, we are definitely going to read through these this morning. Jamaica, you may need to remain sheltered after the storm due to down power lines and flooded areas. Ensure generators are properly ventilated and placed outside at least 20 feet away from dwellings and garages to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. During cleanup, be careful when using chainsaws and power tools. Drink plenty of water to avoid heat exhaustion. Number 2, for Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Catastrophic flash flooding and landslides are expected across portions of Haiti and the Dominican Republic through today. In Haiti, extensive damage and isolation of communities is likely. Tropical storm conditions are expected through this morning. For eastern Cuba, life-threatening... What happened to my box? Life-threatening storm surge, flash flooding, and landslides, and damaging hurricane winds are ongoing this morning. Please remain in a safe shelter. Number 4, for the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Hurricane conditions, life-threatening storm surge, and heavy rainfall are expected across portions of the southeastern and central Bahamas today. Find a safe shelter and follow local official guidance. Tropical storm conditions, heavy rains, and significant storm surge are expected in the Turks and Caicos Island later today. And then for Bermuda, hurricane conditions and heavy rainfall are possible in Bermuda beginning Thursday or Thursday night. Let's erase all that. If we look at the University of Wisconsin, they don't really... it's kind of all over the board. The ADT is way off. D-print was a little bit better, getting down towards a little bit closer. But our satellite estimates are, in some cases, way off. Our shear, though, is 17 knots and kind of new, as you can see here. Less than 3 hours old with that green shading. And as we could see with the precipitable water, a great amount of humidity and tropical moisture is still coming up and will be drawn up from the south. You can also see on that water vapory image the frontal boundary coming off of the Texas and Louisiana coastlines and working its way out into the Gulf. So a reinforcing shot of cooler air and fall, basically, will be arriving here throughout the U.S. over the course of the upcoming hours. Now, we do have here from Cyclonic WX, let me get rid of the ads. We do have reconnaissance planes out there, and we have one that is currently flying through. This is a NOAA mission, so they are allowed to kind of get in and around and over the island of Cuba as to where the United States Air Force may not have that clearance. So having the NOAA Recon flight out there this morning is very, very helpful. Now we will see 11. Looks like 11 will be our number, and we may have central pressures all the way up to around 980 millibars. A massive weakening of this storm, with wind speed, though, still well within, for our flight level wind, well within hurricane status, and potentially even up towards a Category 2 storm. You can see some of those winds right here, this darker purple. Here we go. Let's get, yeah, we'll go with the red. These right here, that color is the one that is representative of Category 2, but please keep in mind that this is flight level winds, not surface winds. So that would, then kind of scale down as we got to the surface. Still a hurricane, but has taken a significant amount of weakening, it seems, as it is now beginning to reemerge over the open waters of the southwestern Atlantic and no longer the Caribbean. And again, folks, I cannot stress this enough. Please follow your official sources. The radar went out on us earlier this morning, and we only get radar up to about 5 a.m. So that's what the storm was looking like when the 5 a.m. advisory came out. I've tried to refresh this. We are not getting any type of new radar on it. I've tried. I was kind of hoping to get some radar from it. And the Bahamas, if we use there and look, they're doing a great job of trying to keep people informed. I scroll down to where the radar composite is, and it does not show up. So, unfortunately, we are kind of blind where the radar is concerned, but we do have a good satellite and those fine folks from the NOAA Hurricane Hunter group. After what they've gone through with Melissa, shout out to all of them. Shout out to everybody there with the United States Air Force that have been flying in and out of this thing, and including all the folks back at back where the planes land that have had to go through and verify their do their inspections after being forced to leave from Melissa due to the severe turbulence. And shout out to everybody that was involved there with the hurricane reconnaissance missions, whether it be NOAA and or the United States Air Force. For Bermuda, as you can see, Hurricane Watch, then they basically telling everybody, hey, watch out. There's not a lot of information on it. They are pretty. They've been the theme of the 2025 hurricane season this year, saying, hey, Bermuda, watch out. I mean, it honestly, that's how I feel, is that the 2025 season has been the year of Bermuda. It seems like every time that we got anything of substantial intensity, it was always, watch out for Bermuda. Bermuda, watch out. Bermuda, watch out. And you've had a couple really, really close calls with some absolute monsters. Ended up taking a direct impact practically with Imelda. And now there's Melissa. So please, folks, Bermuda, you should be used to this drill by now. Please keep a very close eye on things. Now, I do have other tabs set up, but that will be for later on this evening. I am going to go ahead and sign off here this morning. I don't see any questions. I really wasn't expecting any. Honestly, it is early on a Wednesday, and the storm doesn't have that massive attention appeal by everybody right now because of the fact that it is no longer, a 200 mile an hour, 185 was sustained. It had gusts well over 200 and a central pressure of 892 millibars. That is very attention grabbing. Now that we've gotten this weekend, I don't expect as much attention, as much draw on this. Because it's not that catastrophic, historic looking system now. So I just want everybody to be safe. Everybody, we've got just a little bit longer to go through this. By the time that we get to Thursday night, it's over. And today's Wednesday. So we've got maybe about another 36 hours of dealing with this thing. And then it is off to the history books, and we will never see Melissa again. And I guarantee you this storm gets retired. That would most likely be one of the first orders of business when the World Meteorological Organization Region 4 meets early next year. This is, hi, welcome to the meeting. We call the meeting to order, and first order of business, the retirement of the name Melissa. All in favor? Aye. Boom. Unanimous. It's done. We will never see Melissa again, folks. I can guarantee that. It is definitely going to be a retired name. Now, the question will become, because we have had so many M name storms retired, like Maria, Mitch, Matthew, just as, just a few right off the top of my head there. Melissa is also going to be retired as well. Now the question then becomes, and Michael, God, I can't forget that. Now the question comes, what will the next M name storm be for next year? And it won't be next year. We won't see this list again for 6 years. So what we're seeing now, the names that we have now, will return again for the 2031 season. But then the M name storm will be completely different. Now, whether they choose to retire some of the other names that we had earlier this year, like the Category 5s of Aaron and Umberto, it seems unlikely. It seems it really didn't cause that amount of catastrophic damage. It did cause some fringe effects for folks, and some folks were negatively impacted. But as far as like the big impacts, the fatalities, the massive amounts of damage and the billions of dollars and stuff like that, that didn't occur. So I in my personal opinion, I believe Melissa will be the only one that is retired this year. So, all right, everybody, I am going to go ahead and sign off here. I've got my morning duties to take care of. I will be back live again, 1 p.m. this afternoon. We will go over the latest information, take a look and see if there's been any reorganization or potential re-intensification as Melissa begins to get the entirety of the core off of the landmass there of Cuba and find some of that pristine fuel source that it has so desperately been missing over the last few hours in the warm waters of the southwestern Atlantic. We still have shear, and we've already seen the dry air, so there are some mitigating factors, and it is not expected to re-intensify, and we are hopeful that it is going to come off of Cuba weaker than what was previously forecasted. That would be great for everybody, and maybe even get to the point to where if it is weak enough, maybe downgrading the hurricane watch for Bermuda to a tropical storm watch. Maybe. Fingers crossed. I hope. All right, everybody. I will talk to you all again in a few hours.